Jake Knapp is the inventor of the design sprint and the New York Times bestselling author of the book Sprint. He's also the co-founder of Character, a venture fund for early stage startups. How and why did you start using Miro?
I came from this position of thinking, I don't want to be doing stuff online, to thinking now when I do a sprint in person with a company, it's like, we're going to use Miro, even though we're all in the same room, because that's a better way for us to get this work done. As an investor, we're basically investing in their ability to solve problems. We're saying, we think this group of people is going to be able to solve a problem in a really great way and create value by doing it. And actually, you need to give people the tools that can help them make decisions, help them collaborate, help them visualize and see things in a different way. And Miro does all those things. So to me, at least as an investor, I'm thinking, give the team the tools that are going to help them think, that are going to make the most, brighten their skills as smart folks. And Miro is at the top of that list.
Before we get to today's episode, I just want to give a note to listeners that we talk about long-term illness. And though this conversation has a lot of laughter and hope, you know yourself best. Please listen at your own discretion.
Edit audio.
Hello, everyone. I'm Robin Hopkins, and this is Well Adjusting, where I talk to people about life stuff, but not in an NPR way. It's more like we're at the bar, having cocktails, getting into your business sort of way.
It's giving drunk NPR.
Oh, and producer Steph is here too.
Hello.
Today we chat, well, dealing with a long-term illness. Hey, folks. So, I'm just going to get into it today. All right. When we did a call out for season 2 guests, Mary, a woman I knew from college, reached out to me and said, I'd really like to be on the podcast to talk about adjusting to living with a major illness. Now, Mary and I had many mutual friends in common, but we didn't have a ton of direct, crossing of our paths, so to speak. But I've been watching her journey through cancer on social media. And I don't know, it's so strange that these days you may not see people or talk to them, but you can see their lives. Now, there are many negatives about social media, but I do have to say, it has given me a small sliver of a window into how hard Mary's been fighting for her and for her family. So when she said, I want to tell my story, I jumped. There are many, many people out there living with long-term illnesses, trying to figure out their day-to-day, trying to figure out how to show up for loved ones, or living with the pain, the anxiety, and the fear. But I'll tell you what, this is not a conversation of darkness, though there are dark moments. It's a conversation of a fighter. It's a conversation of a person declaring that they are going to live. And I am so proud to share it with you. Now, that is enough for me. Let's get right into it.
I'm Mary Walton, and for the last 13 years, I have been battling breast cancer. And, some days it's hard, some days it's okay, but, it's been a rough road. But I'm here.
I'm here. You are here. So you reached out when I did a call out for folks for the season. And I mean, obviously the thing that you started with, battling cancer for 13 years is a part of it. But can you say in your own words, what was the reason that you wanted to have this conversation?
Well, I think that in life, when you're younger, you really think, oh, I have my whole life ahead of me. And you think everything's going to be positive. I'm going to have a career and I'm going to have a family. And there's just so much excitement. And for me, it was going on pretty well for a while. After college, I went and got a PhD in psychology and started working in corporate America and, had 2 kids and, I was living the dream. And, of course I got married in between there too. Sorry, Dave. Anyway.
By the way, you are not the first person to forget their spouse. We had early in the season, we had someone who was like, I'm living with the love of my life, my dog. And I said, you may want to mention your husband. And she was like, right. So you're not the first.
Oh my God. Anyway, so you're living the dream, and then all of a sudden you just hit a brick wall and you get this diagnosis. And just the title of your podcast is my life. I just thought, my gosh, what a perfect thing to talk about, and some people don't like to talk about if they have cancer or if they've had cancer, or they don't like to talk about it. And that's okay. I mean, that's just who they are.
Yeah.
I don't mind talking about it. I think it helps me to talk about it, actually. Wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I will say that I'm not living my life like just, I have cancer, People have asked me, like, how do you get through this? And I say, every time I say, the 4 F's have helped me through this: faith, family, friends, and Dr. Fox, who is my oncologist, who is amazing.
Shout out to Dr. Fox. Can I take it back a little bit? Like, I don't want to, we've said this before in other episodes where we talk about, emotional topics. Like, we're not interested in grief porn and like getting in there and hearing like, and then what happened? But we do need to like set it up a little bit for people. So can you talk a little bit about how old your kids were and, like kind of before and then the moment after?
Yeah. So, my kids were really young. They were 2.5 and 5.
Holy crap.
And and when I first got it, they told me, okay, well, it's stage 1. And if we do chemo and radiation, we should be able to get rid of it and you'll be okay. So I was like, all right, so that gave me hope. But
Sure.
What made me sad and the hardest conversation I've ever had was telling my kids, who were so young, and the 2-year-old's like running around, like not, she doesn't know what's going on.
Just in a pair of diapers, just throwing things all the time. Because they're 2.
Exactly. And we're sitting at the table, and it's, Dave, my husband, me and the 2 kids. And the hardest thing was to say, mommy has an illness, mommy's sick. And in order to get better, she has to take this medication, and the medication is going to make her look sick. To explain to a 2 and a 5-year-old that medicine is going to make you sick.
Yeah. Oh,
but
that's a really hard.
Medicine's supposed to make you feel better.
Yeah.
And I remember Dave had to say the hair part. The biggest thing you'll notice is that mommy's going to lose her hair. And I just bawled. I mean, I was just crying.
Yeah.
That was so hard. And then, I said to my kid, I said, especially the 5-year-old, I said, I don't want you to worry because, the doctor said that if I do this, that it won't come back and I'll be okay. And because they didn't know what cancer was. They didn't know the word. They didn't know anything about it. So we didn't even use that word. And then my 5-year-old, who is very intuitive, says to me, well, what if it does come back? And I was like, wow. I mean, of course, I had asked myself that question many, many times. But for her to ask that question, I said, well, if it comes to that, we'll fight it then. Right?
Yeah. 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 Because it's like, how do you even answering that question when you are yourself like struggling with that exact same thing?
Right. Right. And nobody knows, even the doctors. I mean, no one knows if it's going to come back or not. Right. I mean, nobody knows. So I went through the worst probably year of my life that time because they really hit me hard with the chemo in order to eradicate it, or hopefully. That first round was tough. I mean, you literally hit a wall and you can't do anything.
And that's a hard age. Your kids are young. Like there's a lot of work for 2 kids under 5 or 5 and under.
Yes. And I was pretty much in bed. I mean, I think I would go like every 3 weeks for the chemo. And it was like the first couple of days I was okay. And then it just would hit me. And then I felt awful until it was time to go back. So it was like, oh, I have one day of feeling good, and then I have to go back and do this again.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really tough, but we're very fortunate to have a nanny or caretaker, whatever you want to call it, because I was working full time and she was amazing. And then my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, I mean, they live close. I just had so much support.
Yeah.
Friends in the neighborhood. Shout out to Michelle, because she said to me right after I got diagnosed, she said, do you want us to set up a meal train for you? Or, how can we help you? This is before I started chemo, so I didn't really know what it was going to be like. And I was like, I'm all right. Don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. I should be able to handle, Thank God she has, she's stubborn too. So she's like, no, we're going to set up a meal train for you. It was amazing. We had 3 meals a week for 5 months.
Wow.
And I mean, it was amazing. And that's why I say, how do you get through this? One of the F's, friends, family. It was really, really awesome to have that.
All right, people, raise your hand if you have ever been personally exhausted by email, right? Same, friend, same. We're all so constantly inundated with email. And if you're like me, going through your inbox becomes less about responding to everything and more about just finding a way to keep tabs on the messages that really matter, like the ones from the school telling me my kids are in trouble that I get all the time. Anyway, that's where SaneBox comes in. Think of it as an EMT for your email. As messages flow in, SaneBox does the triage for you, sifting only the important emails in your inbox and directing all the other distracting stuff, you know what I'm talking about, into your Sane Later folder. So you know what messages you need to pay attention to now and what stuff you can get to like eventually after maybe a nap or, a cocktail. It also, and I know I'm waxing poetically, but it has some very handy features like the Sane Black Hole, where you can drag messages from annoying senders that you never want to hear from again. Bye, friend. Oh, and it also has Sane reminders to ping you if someone hasn't replied to your email by a certain date. I mean, nothing like having to follow up on your follow-up, am I right? All right, best of all, you can use SaneBox with any email client or phone anywhere you check your email. I mean, come on. See how SaneBox can magically remove distractions from your inbox with a free 2-week trial. That's a deal. Visit sanebox.com/well today to start your trial, and you're going to get a $25 credit. That's sanebox.com/WELL. Go ahead, folks. Get it.
I went through the treatment, I started feeling better. I thought, okay, everything's good, hopefully. But one thing about cancer, like once you have it, anytime that you have like a bump, a bruise, oh, my leg hurts, anything, oh crap, I mean, it's just like...
Yeah, there's just, I imagine, a strong fear that it's still in there or it's coming back.
Absolutely. And everybody says that. I mean, everybody says that. And that is a really hard thing. And then I remember one of my nurses early on, I said, after that first, chemo, that whole treatment stuff was over that first year, I said to her, well, now what do I do?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like at least when I was on treatment, I knew that the cancer was being killed, you know, but when you're not on treatment, like what's going on in there? You don't know. About a year after treatment was over and everything, I started feeling this lump under my arm, and my arm started feeling really, it was almost like, if you have a tight rubber band around your arm or your hand or whatever, and it's just feeling like numb. And I was like, that doesn't feel right. And so, of course, you jump to, oh shit,
Yeah.
it's happening, And unfortunately, I went in to the doctor and he confirmed that it was there. And so that was probably the second worst day of my life because
you're just out of treatment.
Well, I had been out of treatment for about a year.
Okay.
So my hair grew back. I was all, back feeling like, okay, I'm back to normal. Da, da, da. And the thing about the cancer that I have, there are so many different types of breast cancer. And I happen to have what's called triple negative. It's the most aggressive type. And I read that if it comes back, then your chance of survival is like very small. And you could, basically live for maybe 2 years. And
oh my God, so, that's not something you want to read.
No.
Obviously.
So
that's the dumbest thing I could have said, but I said it. It's out there.
No, it's true. And actually my doctor after that was like, stop going on the internet. He was like, his internet bashing. He's like, stop it. You are going to drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
And he said, just because it says that doesn't mean it's going to happen for you. Let's just treat this and move on. You're going to be okay. Let's just go with it, So when we found out, that it had come back, I mean, that was just, Dave and I were just so upset. I mean, telling our kids the second time was like, well, it did come back. And, I think that it's been really hard for them.
Yeah.
And I always told myself, and I told Dave, and I've always said, you know what? I am going to live for them. I am going to fight like hell to be here for them. And
yeah.
Didn't think I was going to cry. Damn it. But they are now 18 and almost 16. And my daughter is my 18-year-old's going to college next year. And I'm just so happy that I made it, to see them grow up. And I was here for them.
Yeah. Take a breath.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about the kids? I'm a parent too. And I'm just thinking about how, obviously there's the will of just like, I'm going to be here for them. But like, there's all the psychological stuff that's going on, like you said, of like, is it going to come back? Oh, now it's back. Like that alone without children would be difficult because you're trying to be like, I got to fight. You got to remain positive when you feel shitty. So like, you're having to do that. And then at the same time, you got to like bring yourself over here. And then you just have to be the mom that shows up at practices and class things and PTO and maybe not show them or show them how you're feeling. Like all of that's happening. So how did you pull that off?
Well, emotionally, I'm heavily medicated. So that helped. I'm on like antidepressants and anxiety meds to this day. I mean, we'll get into that later, but, physically, so interestingly, the first round of chemo was really, really hard. It was harder than the second round and the third round and the fourth round. So the second medication wasn't as bad. So I was able to do more. I tried to make it. So I was going to lose my hair again, which is like, ugh, damn it, And I mean, when I say lose your hair, you lose all of your hair. And I mean, no eyebrows, no eyelashes, no, everything. And that makes you look sick. I got my eyebrows tattooed on at one point, which was awesome. But anyway, so the first time I knew I was going to lose my hair, I had long hair. And I said, Dave, let's make this kind of fun. Let's have a hair cutting party. And so my niece is a hairdresser And she cut my hair, and we did this all in my kitchen. But we had just had family portraits done, and our photographer I was telling her about it, and she's like, "Oh, do you want me to come and take pictures?" And I'm like, "Sure, why not?" So we had balloons, we had cake, and so when I was sitting at the chair, getting my hair cut, she put my hair into 2 ponytails, and she let Alexa, my younger daughter, cut one, and Malia cut the other one. So they thought that was fun.
Yeah.
And so we laughed. I mean, so we made it into something that wasn't so scary and so awful.
Yeah.
The second time I said, all right, how can we top that? So, I mean, I'm always trying to find positive things in anything. So I got 5 different colors of hairspray. And we invited the neighbor kids over and my kids. And I sat outside and I said, here, go for it. And they sprayed my hair. So I came out with red and orange and blue and all these different colors of my hair. It just maybe makes it a little less scary for them. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it just made it fun. You have to laugh, or I did, not everybody, but, because everybody deals with it differently. But I just felt like, you know what? Okay, this is happening. It sucks. Let's do something to lighten it,
So in general, was that your path with the kids, that you were like, I may have to give them this news, but I'm going to try to find some positive moment in it?
Yeah. At first we decided, Dave and I decided, okay, let's not use the term cancer. And I kind of was like, I'm not going to show the kids my feelings. Like when I'm upset, or if I get bad news, I'm just going to, yeah, okay, it's going to be fine, and even though I'm like dying inside, and it doesn't work. So when I first got it, because I had lymph nodes taken out of my armpit, my arm was really sore, and I had drains, and it was just really, really painful.
Yeah.
And the kids thought that I had arm surgery, and I just kind of let them go with that. And they were over at their friend's house. Their parents knew and said something to the kids, which is normal, whatever. And they said, oh, my mom hurt her arm. And they're like, no, she didn't. She has cancer. And they were like,
no.
What? Yeah. So I was like, oh, shit. So they came home and told us that. And I was like, okay, change a plan. We need to tell them everything. Because with kids, if you hide something from them, they pick up on that, and then they could think it's worse than it actually is.
That's a really good point.
So with the kids, I remember, as young as, I guess my younger one, she might have been 4 when I got it, when it came back. And, she understood, but she didn't understand. Right. So, but she understood a lot more than I thought she did, because I remember this like it was yesterday. I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth, and she was in the bathroom with me, standing next to me. She was getting ready for bed. And she said, Mommy, I can't do this without you. And I said, what can't you do without me, honey? I can't live without you, Mommy. I just can't. And I was like, oh my God, she's 4 years old. And, and it's hard. It's so hard for them.
Yeah.
It's still hard for them. So I was like, you know what? We got to change this. And so we sat down with the kids and we said, okay, well, Mom, I did have surgery and my arm does really hurt, but I have this thing and it's it's called cancer. And so we had to explain, what cancer was and everything. So the other thing was that, so I go for CAT scans it was every 3 months. And I would get really nervous before a CAT scan because, again, you don't know what's going on in there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And at first I tried to hide that from the kids. And then I was like, you know what? No, they need to know how to process emotion and what is appropriate emotion, right? And so if I got bad news, I tended to not show them that I was upset. Yeah. Again, I learned, nope, show them you're upset. It's okay to be upset.
Yeah. All right, people, raise your hand if you have ever been personally exhausted by email, right? Same, friend, same. We're all so constantly inundated with email. And if you're like me, going through your inbox becomes less about responding to everything and more about just finding a way to keep tabs on the messages that really matter, like the ones from the school telling me my kids are in trouble that I get all the time. Anyway, that's where SaneBox comes in. Think of it as an EMT for your email. As messages flow in, SaneBox does the triage for you, sifting only the important emails in your inbox and directing all the other distracting stuff, you know what I'm talking about, into your Sane Later folder. So you know what messages you need to pay attention to now and what stuff you can get to like eventually after maybe a nap or, a cocktail. It also, and I know I'm waxing poetically, but it has some very handy features like the Sane Black Hole, where you can drag messages from annoying senders that you never want to hear from again. Bye, friend. Oh, and it also has Sane reminders to ping you if someone hasn't replied to your email by a certain date. Nothing like having to follow up on your follow-up, am I right? All right, best of all, you can use SaneBox with any email client or phone anywhere you check your email. Come on. See how SaneBox can magically remove distractions from your inbox with a free 2-week trial. That's a deal. Visit sanebox.com/well today to start your trial, and you're going to get a $25 credit. That's sanebox.com/WELL. Go ahead, folks. Get it.
So it sounds like you had many touches with cancer over the years. And so your experience changed, but also like your children are very different ages and can comprehend different things, and you can have conversations with them and communicate with them in different ways. So I guess I just kind of want to know timeline wise, when did you feel like that shift happened where you were like, oh, I have to let them in on this more? Do you remember at what stage you were at or how old they were? And also, where are you at now? Like, what does the now picture look like with them?
Where I am right now is I've been on a treatment break for 2 years because the treatment worked really well to, suppress, I guess, the growth of the tumors. And so, I'm doing really well. Knock on wood. As far as I know, I'm doing really well. So about, a year ago, I was still having the CAT scans every 3 months. And every time I'd get a CAT scan, I would get more and more anxious. And I felt like I could only live my life for 3 months. And then I had to adjust to whatever, answer I got from this CAT scan. So I felt like I was adjusting every 3 months. And that's so hard. It's just like, can I go on a trip? Well, I don't know, because I might be on chemo then, And so I went in to get my CAT scan, and Dave was with me, and he said to Dr. Fox, she's getting so anxious about these CAT scans. And they have a term for this called scanxiety. And it is real, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And that's when I really need that medicine.
Yeah.
But so my doctor, in his wisdom, says, well, how about we do them every 6 months now? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, because then that's scary. Like, then you don't know for another 3 months, But we tried it. I was not nervous. I mean, I was a little bit anxious, but I wasn't as anxious as I was with the 3-month time period.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I could plan, I could live my life knowing what my life was going to look like,
Yeah.
So even if like, let's say next time I go in to get a CAT scan and it's, you have to go back on treatment. Well, at least I know what the next 6 months are going to look like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask you this question? So you mentioned like what you do for yourself. Like one, you seek medication, which is super smart, to make sure that you can help with your anxiety and depression. What other things do you do for yourself to like that sounds like that was a very smart move to recognize that every 3 months was just too much emotionally. So you switch to 6 months, even though that gives you a little bit of anxiety, but it gives you some room to breathe. But like in your day to day, what do you do for yourself to help yourself live, for lack of a better word? Because it sounds like you're always like trying to start living and then fucking cancer smacks you in the back of the head.
Yeah. Well, I've always been a doer and a creator. Like I like to make things. And so I learned how to do like woodworking, and I learned how to do renovation stuff in my house. So I
love
put down
that.
hardwood floors, and I, put up trim, and
I love
Oh my
that.
God, I'm obsessed with this.
But, when you're sitting in the house, because you can't really go anywhere when you don't feel good, you're sitting in your house and you're looking around, and you're like, I want to update that. All right. I need some more cabinets or, and I'm like, I wonder how you do that. So I'd go on the internet and I'd go on YouTube, and somebody would be there showing you how to make a cabinet. So I was like, all right. So I got the tools, and with tools, you can do anything.
And you made cabinets.
And I made cabinets. That was my first thing.
I love that.
I love like this attitude though. I feel like you come into life with this like, nope, I'm going to do it. And it will get done. And that is so cool. Whether it's like cabinetry, whether it's finishing a round of chemo, whether it's whatever, you're like, nope, this is my thing. I'm doing it. Watch me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that. I think that's really inspiring.
Thank you. Well, the physical part, I'm not 100% back to normal because a couple things have happened because of the treatment. So my lungs, I have some damage to my lungs because of the radiation.
Yeah.
And then I also have lymphedema in my left arm, which it's not too bad, but I have to wear a sleeve, but I try to, and Robin, you were asking me what else I do. I actually play tennis.
Oh, amazing.
And, I am trying to live my life like it's normal, and I try to go to my kids, every event that they have. And, I think our relationship is like a typical, teenage girls and their mom.
Yeah. And I think that's probably a lot because you talked so openly and honestly about it. I'm curious, did the family at any point, like, did the kids do therapy, or did you feel like that was necessary or needed or anything? Or was it just like you were so open, everything felt like it was out in the open?
No, we've done therapy. They've done therapy. We've done therapy. We've done it together. They've done it separately. I think that they know that they have a different home life.
Yeah.
Or they've had a different home life. And they definitely express it differently. So, for instance, my older daughter, when she was in 5th grade, she did not want to talk about it. Like, she would avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
we kind of worried about that. That's part of why, therapy came in. But then she had to write an essay in class, and all of her feelings came out. And right after she wrote it, I remember we were sitting at the kitchen island, and I was sitting there, and she brought it over to me, and she said, "Do you want to read my essay?" Which she didn't always do. And I said, yeah, I'd love to read your essay. And it was about, she had known, I guess, a lot of people, like her classmates, grandparents, or so-and-so dying of cancer. And one of the last lines that she wrote was, "Hopefully my mom will not be next."
Oh.
Another time, I was doing a new treatment, and I came home, and I was like shivering and shaking. So I was having this reaction to it. So I called my doctor right away, and he said, "Okay, take some, Benadryl, and that'll calm it down, because your immune system is overreacting."
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I'm shaking. I have coats on, and my kids had just come home, and Alexa, my younger one, immediately ran over to me and said, "Mommy, are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm just really cold. I'm really cold." And she brought me like blankets and, all kinds of things to put on me. I mean, I was covered in like, 20 blankets. And Malia, she's my older one.
Yeah.
She avoided the situation
Yeah.
because I don't think she was I know she wasn't comfortable with it, and it was too much. And that's okay. I mean, I don't want her to think, "Oh, I wish she had come over too," because it's just different. And my point is that the kids are different. And so you kind of have to use your judgment on how to talk to them.
Well, Mary, I do want to say, we interviewed somebody in season 1, and her mom died of cancer when she was young. And she was still, it was a decade later, and she was still massively, massively processing. And one of the reasons was because no one talked about it in her family. And I just want to say, like, hopefully it doesn't sound wrong, but I'm so proud of you, because I can't even imagine as a parent how hard that must have been to be so honest and to go through all that. But you did all that for your kids, and you managed to give them something as normal as you possibly could in very trying circumstances. So I think you should be incredibly proud of yourself. And I think you did a wonderful, wonderful thing for them, because like I said, she's still really struggling. And it doesn't mean your kids, won't have their struggles too, but they may have so many more tools to handle it because of what you did. So,
well, I hope so.
Many props to you.
The biggest thing that I hope my kids learn from this experience is that, life can throw you a bowl of crap, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? You can lay down and let it hit you in the face, or you can maneuver yourself and, do the best you can, try to be positive. I mean, I certainly have bad days where I feel really depressed, or I feel really tired, or whatever. But I just hope that they learn that they can get through anything. Like if I can get through this, and they can get through this, then they can get through anything. The other thing is the spouse, like the caregiver, in my case, Dave, he's been such a big part of this too. And really haven't talked about him very much, but, they've done a lot of research and stuff on how this impacts the caregiver, and, because his life is disrupted as well, because he doesn't know. I mean, when I say I don't know what my life's going to look like in 3 months, he doesn't know either.
Yeah.
Like, we're both very controlling. Like, we like to control our lives and our worlds. And for two people who were like that, this is hard.
Yeah. To someone who's starting a journey that you are on, what advice would you have as a person, how to take care of yourself, as a parent? What wisdom could you impart?
One thing that comes to mind is when you're picking your doctor, make sure that not only do they know their stuff clinically, but that they are compassionate and that they have good bedside manner. And I say that because I went to get a second opinion when it came back because, I had read that, oh shit, I'm going to die. And, so I worked for a pharmaceutical company. They do research on cancer. And so I reached out to one of the doctors and I said, what doctor can I get a second opinion from? And he said, this guy up in Boston, he's a really top researcher in this area with triple negative cancer and blah, blah, blah. So we made an appointment. We get there and he was very nice, but he basically told me that I should get my papers in order. And
what?
That, yeah. And he didn't say, because you're going to die soon, but he might as well have,
Yeah.
And I mean, I was pissed. And sometimes I don't say anything, but I was like, oh no. And I said, you know what? I said, you don't know when I'm going to die. I said, I could walk out here and get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
So no, you can't tell me that. And I said, I understand the averages, but let me tell you something. I'm an outlier.
Good for you.
So then I went back to my doctor and I said to him, because he had never, ever said that to me, ever. And I said, well, I got my second opinion. And it just reassured me that you're the best doctor in the whole world. And he's like, I learned early never to say that to somebody, because if a doctor says that to you, sometimes you believe it and then you live it, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, you give up hope.
Yeah.
Hope is so important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So some advice that I would give to people is, if someone ever says that to you, a doctor ever says that to you, no, maybe I wouldn't have been the outlier. I mean, I happened to become the outlier, but I could have been the average, but don't tell me that.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is, regardless of the outcome, you're advocating for yourself. And I think that is, first of all, very powerful, especially to do in a time where you don't feel very powerful, maybe, and in a setting where you're not the authority in that setting, right? You're sitting on the bed or whatever, and the doctor's above you, and they're like, I am the being of all knowing and blah, blah, blah. So to me, that's very powerful that you were able to, stand up for yourself and advocate for yourself and, tell the doctor what you needed and then go back to your doctor and be like, yeah, I need you.
Yeah.
And that is so cool.
Yeah.
Normally we have these conversations and I feel like Robin and I do our best to sort of talk through an issue that someone's experiencing or presenting. But I really feel like this one, everyone that listens to it will come away learning a lot from you. So
I think so too.
Thank you for sharing this, first of all, and being strong enough to share it, and much respect and admiration for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we're sending all the love to you and your family to continue healing and to continue living, because that's really what you're doing. And it's incredible. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing everything with us.
You are so welcome. It's my pleasure.
You have reached the Well-Adjusting Expert of the Day. Today, we've got two very special experts of the day. Here are Mary's daughters, Malia and Alexa.
Hi, my name is Malia.
And I'm Alexa.
And we're just going to be giving some advice to both parents and children who are kind of in our same situation. So we're going to start off with any advice we have for kids that are in the same kind of situation and going through the same thing that we've been through. I think like one big piece of advice I would have that it took me a while to learn is that talk to your sibling about it, because I know that both of us, since we were so young when it happened, didn't really understand what was happening and how to process it. But I think it's really important to kind of go through those emotions with your sibling if you have one, or a friend or a family member of some kind, just because they're going to understand what you're going through because they're also going through it, and it helps to feel less alone.
Yeah, like to add on to that, I remember when I was in like 3rd grade, I had one of my best friends and I would talk to her or FaceTime her maybe on CAT scan day, because I had a phone at a pretty young age, but I would FaceTime her. And just having someone in your community in your like everyday life at school, just to like maybe just exchange a look, or just them to be able to know what you're going through and for them to like make your day better in a way, has really helped me.
Yeah, and then the second thing is for parents, kind of just keeping it positive and less of a looming thing that's over everyone's heads.
Yeah, I remember when we were younger, my mom had these hats to like keep her head warm, and we would call it her like pirate hat, and we would like run around like pretending like we were pirates with her hat on. And like just being able to be a child is one of the most important things, and like letting your child still have fun.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to get caught up in all of the negatives and kind of worrying about your kids and how they're going to deal with it, but in a way that almost makes it worse, because you don't want to hide things from them, because that can be really scary when you already don't really understand what's going on. If you find out like that they're keeping something from you, even if it's not like a really big deal to you, I think just being open and honest really helps with accepting what's going on.
And just like remember for parents to not let your family drift apart, because it's really easy because you're all going through something so deep.
Yeah, a big thing for us that have helped with that is during the scan week, like the week before our mom gets her CAT scans, that's the week when we're all kind of going through a lot of emotions at once. And it's hard to remember that you're not going through it alone and that everyone in the house is going through it. And it's also really easy to take it out on each other. So I think one thing that's helped us with that is having more family time like that week, and really trying to focus on spending time together rather than the result of the scan.
Yeah, and just like understanding what your kid is going through too, because I remember when I was really young going to like my friends' houses and like seeing just that their moms have like long hair and they weren't like tired or sleepy all the time. It was kind of confusing for me to think like, why can't my mom be like that? And just like being open and honest with your kids, but also like if they're at such a young age, maybe trying to filter it a little bit, because it's such like a harsh topic for a little kid to learn.
Yeah, it definitely took us both a while to understand and like actually fully realize what the situation was, just because when you're so young and that's all you know, you don't really realize how different your experience is and your childhood is because of that, especially compared to like your peers or your friends. Yeah. So sometimes even really small things can almost like trigger that a little bit. It definitely helps to have like as much information and as much family support as possible, just so like you don't feel like you're alone. Like you're not the only one going through it. The whole family is kind of in it together.
Yeah. And just knowing that even though it's so hard when a young kid is going through this, that it will provide them with so much more like emotional stability. Yeah. Thanks. Because I know, especially for me and my sister, we've been able to be really emotionally like mature in a way that a lot of other girls our age might not be. But it's just like being able to handle your emotions better and just understanding what you're feeling is really important.
Yeah, I think the first step towards that is just accepting it and saying like, you know what, like I can be upset about this all I want, but it's happening and it's not my fault. It's not anyone's fault. And there's nothing you can really do except for accept it and process it. Once you do that, I think it's a lot easier to kind of live with it and accept it as a part of like something that happened, a part of your childhood and a part of like your family dynamic. So I think That's why it's so important to be so open about it with each other, because as soon as you know that you're not alone, it's a lot easier to process the emotions that you're going through, because you're surrounded by people who understand that and are also going through those same emotions.
Okay, that's it for today, folks. But before we go, I want to say so many thanks to Mary for bravely sharing her journey with us. And thank you to Alexa and Malia for your wisdom, your emotional intuitiveness, and for sharing all your learnings with the other folks who may be struggling. For more Robin, and you may need that, you probably don't need it, but if you do, you can follow me at Real Rob Hops on all the platforms, all the socials, as the kids today say. Well Adjusting is an Edit Audio original, exec produced by Steph Colburn and Robin Hopkins. Thank you to Maria Passingham, Kathleen Speckert, and the whole Edit Audio team. Oh, hey, before you take out those AirPods, this show is just for entertainment. If you are in need of help, please, please, please reach out to a professional. Go ahead and get that help. You deserve it.
Jake Knapp is the inventor of the design sprint and the New York Times bestselling author of the book Sprint. He's also the co-founder of Character, a venture fund for early stage startups. How and why did you start using Miro?
I came from this position of thinking, I don't want to be doing stuff online, to thinking now when I do a sprint in person with a company, it's like, we're going to use Miro, even though we're all in the same room, because that's a better way for us to get this work done. As an investor, we're basically investing in their ability to solve problems. We're saying, we think this group of people is going to be able to solve a problem in a really great way and create value by doing it. And actually, you need to give people the tools that can help them make decisions, help them collaborate, help them visualize and see things in a different way. And Miro does all those things. So to me, at least as an investor, I'm thinking, give the team the tools that are going to help them think, that are going to make the most, brighten their skills as smart folks. And Miro is at the top of that list for me.